Hi everyone, this is Anna of Camellia Fiber Company. Today I'm going to be telling you about the different supplies that you'll find at the craft store and what we recommend that you get if you're looking to learn to knit. Start with just yarn. I'm going to move my needles out of the way. When you go to the craft store, you're probably going to be overwhelmed by the amount of yarn that you're going to see and the differences in weight. The main weight categories that we talk about in knitting are fingering weight yarns, sport weight yarns, DK weight yarns, worsted weight yarns, and then bulky weight yarns. And I'm going to show you what we have here at Camellia Fiber Company for every single weight. We're going to start with our fingering weight yarns. These are the lightest weight yarns that you'll find, and our lightest weight that we carry is our mohair and silk, and this is a lace weight yarn. After our mohair and silk, we have our flax weight yarn, still a fingering weight yarn, and then finally we have our sylvan yarn. So those are all our lightest yarns, the fingering weights. After fingering weight, you move up a little bit to a sport weight. And in a sport weight at Camellia Fiber Company, we carry our Merino Sport and also our Halo. From sport weight, you move up to a DK weight yarn. This is considered a light worsted weight yarn. We have our flax DK, and then we also have our plume. After a DK, you'll go to a worsted weight yarn. This is primarily what you'll find. We have one worsted weight yarn. It's our Merino Worsted, which you can see here in our Camellia colorway. After a worsted weight, you have an Aran weight. We don't carry any Aran weights at Camellia Fiber Company, but we do have a few bulky weight yarns, including our hand-dyed bulky in Camellia here again. And then also all of our hand-spun yarns, like the unicorn yarn here, are considered that bulky weight. The biggest difference you're going to notice in these different yarn weights is when you start knitting them up and you notice the different sizes and the stitches that you get. So our fingering weight, you can see we have very small stitches with good stitch definition. That's our smallest weight. Moving from there to the sport weight, you can see our stitches get a little bit bigger. Then moving to our DK weight, you can't tell a huge difference here, but the stitches are just a little bit bigger going to the DK weight. You'll see more of a difference moving to the worsted weight, especially comparing the fingering to the worsted. Our stitches have gotten significantly bigger. And then finally we have our chunky weight. Biggest difference here, we've got these huge kind of plush, squishy stitches. This is great for something like a cozy scarf or cowl or even a blanket, but the yarn weight that you choose will affect the product that you end up with because you're going to have these different sizes of stitches. Next, we're going to move on to needles. What most people think about when they think of knitting are these straight needles. Straight needles are great for knitting anything flat. They're also great for beginners because they are what we traditionally think of when we think about knitting. We also have circular needles. Circular needles are for knitting in the round or knitting anything that is a circle. You can also knit flat on circular needles, which is what a lot of more advanced knitters will do. Our circular needles come in different cord lengths. You can see this here. I've got a very short cord length, a slightly longer cord length, and then this cord length that you can see is very long. Your different cord length just depends on the size of what you're knitting. So if you're knitting something like the body of a sweater that has a bigger circumference, then you're going to use something with a longer cord. If you're knitting a hat or a sleeve, you might want something with a slightly shorter cord. After our circular needles, we have our double-pointed needles. Double-pointed needles are also for when you're working in the round or when you're knitting something that is a circle, but they're for items that are smaller, where the circumference is smaller than what you can fit on a circular needle. So something like a sock or the top of a hat would not fit around the circular needle, and you would need to knit it on these double-pointed needles. In addition to the different types of needles, we have different materials that our needles are made of. All of these that I showed you here are wooden needles. Wooden needles are great for beginners because they have a little more grip to them. Your stitches don't slide off quite as easily as they do on something like a metal needle. Metal needles are very slick, and so your stitches will just slide right off. Advanced knitters work with either. It's just down to personal preference. Some people really like to work on metal needles. Some people prefer to work on wooden needles. But for a beginner, we're going to recommend that you work on some wooden needles so you have that additional grip as you're working. Now that you know about all the different types of yarn and types of needles, we're going to give you a recommendation of what you actually go out and get, because this can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when you walk into the yarn store. In terms of yarn, we're going to recommend that you go get a worsted weight yarn in a light color, similar to our worsted weight in this Camellia colorway. A light color is great to start with because you can really easily see your stitches and see what you're doing, where a dark color, the visibility is going to be a little bit more difficult. In terms of needles, we recommend that you start with a pair of wooden straight needles, somewhere between a US 7 and a US 9. I'm going to be working with a US 8, which is what I have here. They're a little easy to hold on to, and again, the wooden needles give you grip, which is great for a beginner. Now that you know what you're going to need, you can go out to your local craft store or your local yarn store to pick up these supplies. And then tune back into our future videos. We're going to be talking about the different styles of knitting, including the knitting that I'm going to be teaching you, and then just the basics of how to cast on, how to knit, and how to get started on your first project. If you like this video and you're interested in learning to knit along with us, make sure that you like and subscribe. There's also going to be a link in the description to our website where you can go learn more about all of the different yarns that we offer. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.